There's clearly a lot of questions in the air right now. What should we watch for next?
I would watch what happens in Belarus. I would watch what happens to there, as far as we know, there are in the low thousands of Wagner forces in the center of Belarus. And it's a real question of what the Kremlin is going to decide to do with them, because they were the ones who were the mutineers. They were mostly made up of former prisoners that Prigozhin got out of prison in return for fighting in eastern Ukraine this past year. And so of anybody in Wagner, they would likely have the most loyalty to Prigozhin as an individual. So that's the group I would pay the most attention to watching. And then there's just the question of what happens to what is now, under the title of the Wagner Group in Syria, or at least in Africa. We're not sure what's already happened with the ones in Syria. And what will that mean for the Russian security force presence, which has been called Wagner, in the Central African Republic, in Mali, in Sudan, in Libya? Are we going to see any changes there? And I would guess the changes are going to be minimal, but it's still worth watching.
I do have another quick question. Do you think Prigozhin had any indication that Putin would exact revenge on him? Because everyone knows that people who turn on Putin, your days do seem numbered.
Prigozhin was a very risk acceptant person. He never would have gotten to where he was if he wasn't. And, maybe he just decided he would live out his life as best he could until the boom fell, and he knew it was going to happen at some point. Some of the indications we have is that he was actually in Niger filming a video a couple of days ago, trying to get people to be recruited into Wagner to come and fight in Niger. We don't know for sure if that's what happened, but that's what his video channels appeared to suggest, and then flew back again to Moscow. And there's some suggestion that he flew back to Moscow because Putin suggested that he needed some sort of consultations about his contracts with the food industry in Moscow, with the school system and the military system. It was kind of striking to people that even after the mutiny, Prigozhin's firms got new contracts for food provision in Moscow. And now we know maybe why that happened. It was an excuse to get Prigozhin back to Moscow so that he could be taken out in a way that was very clear and very direct on Russian territory and really leave no doubts about what happened.
Dr. Marten, I really appreciate your insights and your expertise. And as this story does develop, I hope you join me again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.